Hi, it's Cara from carawild.com, and the video or audio, depending on which media stream you're listening to, is of me channeling the ancients, where I thought I was going to channel about time and collapsing time. The ancients have been talking to me about how time is not linear, how time is more stacked, and how we can access the timeline that we want to. So I recorded this channeling because I thought that's what I was going to be channeling about, and it would be really useful to everybody. And instead, what came through in their infinite wisdom, as usual, is they paid attention to something that was concerning me a lot more than I was consciously aware of, and that was how to respond to the crisis with the children being separated from their parents in America, to personal challenges in friendships of my own where people were struggling, and I was finding it difficult to find that balance as an empath between being a supportive, compassionate presence of love and also really taking care of myself, and also how to respond to the cries all over the internet that if you are not doing anything and you're not taking action to stop what's happening in mass consciousness, to intervene, to shout it out, to talk about it, then you're not spiritual, you're not caring, you're not compassionate, and all that crap was really annoying me. And also, because it was annoying me like that, I knew I was attached to it in some way, and I was also starting to feel guilty about not intervening and wondering what my place was as an empath, what my role as a channel of the light is, and also how I can best serve my community, you guys, as empaths and channels of the light that really want to work with source energy to actually create the heaven on earth that we really believe in, and how to really walk that talk when stuff like this is happening and people are crying out in pain and there's angry voices telling you about what you should be doing, and how we honor our integrity and respond from our true selves and block out all the noise and all the shoulds that tell us what to do. And the ancients came through and addressed that. I didn't know, like I say, I didn't know consciously it was causing me so much angst. And I found my own personal pathway through it. If you want to know what that is, you can email me over at carawild.com and I will tell you. I am not going around shouting about it. I have told people on social media how I'm responding and what I'm doing, but it's personal. You know, all your life is your choice. Our life is our choice, and nobody gets to decide how we respond. And I know we have a privilege of that we have that privilege of choosing how to respond when we're not in those situations, but also we can make use of that privilege. And the way that the ancients talked about how to do that as a skilled empath and as a potential Lemurian, this intrigued me. And like I say, it helped me find my peaceful way through it and how to manage it and what to do. And I hope it does the same for you. If you want to share your responses or your thoughts about it over on the podcast blog, or emailing me, or on my Facebook page, Cara Wild, then that'd be great, because as a community we really need to support each other in our different ways of responding, especially when we are so sensitive to energy in a way that perhaps other people just can't explain, and we don't need to explain. So I hope you find it useful, and see you on the other side. Bye for now. Greetings. It is our sincere desire to help you create the reality that you want to experience, to remind you that you are living an illusion, though it seems very real, And at times when Cora, the channel, looks round at the reality in the world that has been created, it seems almost uncompassionate and unkind to think that it is an illusion. And that does not change the fact that it is. And if you want to create change in your reality with expediency, we invite you to listen to our words and to hold them in your awareness lightly. Now, don't try too hard to understand the concepts. Don't try too hard to make it work in your life. To begin with, just hold the concepts lightly and see what parts of your own inner wisdom they touch with and connect with. You know, what makes sense to you. Some of it won't make sense to you. Some of it will anger you, and that's all right. Just notice. Take our words as meditation to ponder and be with. Action is your last resort. It's important, but it's not your first port of call, not from our perspective. So let's help the channel understand time, and as we talk to her, we talk to you, and hopefully help you understand how to create a reality with more elegance and more ease. There is no doubt that your world is in turmoil in many ways. And there is no doubt that there are many of you that are throwing your hands up in despair. And there is no doubt that there are many of you who are choosing to disengage. Some of them from choosing to leave physical reality. Bah, I'm done with it. Yes, done with it. Enough already. There's some of you that are choosing to disengage in a more profound way, we would say, which is a way that we would want to speak to. So some of you are choosing to disengage with the reality that you see unfolding in many areas of your life, not by disengaging your compassion. In fact, it is your ability to feel the deepest of compassion, particularly those of you that consider yourselves empaths or walkers from another world, we might call them. You've had it. Your compassion is saying, enough. Let's do what we came here to do. Let's create another way. Let's find another way. Not because we want to forget those that are in pain, never so, but because we want to help those that are in pain. And so you cannot separate your experience of your world from the living of your day-to-day life. You can't separate the two. It's not possible, especially for those that are deeply connected at a energetic level. And we know that word is overused somewhat, but for those of you that feel the impulses and feel the mass consciousness, it is hear this, this is important. Those of you that feel the pain of mass consciousness can respond with love or respond with fear in the same way that as we hear your collective cries and the cries of the channel, we respond from the higher planes of love, unconditional love, from our wider perspective. And you are the guides in your physical reality. You are the guides in your physical reality. So if you feel an impulse to reach out with love, and hear this too, love always enables. Love is not pity. Love does bring action in some ways. Pity brings a sense of helplessness, whereas love brings enabling and an action. So if you feel called to help some of those causes in your physical reality, if you feel called to create change and to create something new for the people that you see are in despair, then know this, that is your path. That is on your path, and you are heeding your own call when you respond to it. If you respond out of a sense of injustice and unfairness, that's not true love. That is rebellion against the status quo, and though can prove helpful in some regards by calling attention to that which is occurring, most often than not, when it's an act of rebellion against the status quo, we would suggest that more harm than good is created, and let us explain. Because you're just adding to the collective pain. We're not suggesting that you don't say no to what you're seeing. You say no to make way for more yeses. But if you're just saying no and you're not creating another way through your yeses, then you're simply adding to the collective pain. You're calling attention to all that is not working, and that's all that you're doing. You can become stuck in complaining. You can become stuck in the denser energies, and you create more. So yes, there is plenty that is happening in your world that kind eyes would feel painful. When looked upon with kind eyes, it is painful to see. So what do you want to do? If you feel called to do something, what do you want to say yes to? What do you want to create in your reality? What is the impulse of love that occurs within you from a sense of compassion and solidarity? And if you don't get an answer, if you look at the pain in your world and you just think of a certain, let's take your politics, yes, in your Western world in particular, if you look there and you throw your hands up in the air and you just don't know what to do about it, it's not your path, not right now. There's so many of you that are light workers out there that are carrying around a sense of guilt that does not belong to you, a guilt that you should be doing more, that you should be helping more, you should be caring more, you should be giving more. And many of you are experiencing the fatigue of this. And you can't help people if you're not helping yourself as well. And the way to know if something is on your path is if you feel a loving impulse to do something creative about it. You're constantly creating. So what do you want to do about it? How do you want to give? What do you want to create in your world? What would you rather see instead? What do you want to call people to? What do you want to shout yes to? And where do you already see that in your reality? And where do you want to see more of it? Every single one of you is a part of the solution that your reality is calling out for. Every single one of you is part of the solution. And you don't always know how you fit in. But hear this, if you're feeling guilt about what you're not doing, or even guilt about your spiritual practice, you're not meditating enough, or you should meditate but you don't like it, you're not very spiritual then, are you? All of those spiritual shoulds go against the principles of true spirituality as we see it. Spirituality is the embracing of your multidimensional self and the actualizing and embodying of that, of who you truly are in physical reality, through the lens of your positive ego. You're here to enjoy life. You are here to have fun. You are here to enjoy life. Life is an adventure in consciousness. And it is your right to switch off, to disengage from that which has been created, so that you can begin to create something anew. And this is where the idea of collapsing time comes in. If you constantly look at things that are not working in your life or in the world, so much of your time, space, and energy is taken up by finding out more and more details about why it's not working, what's going wrong, what's happened, where it began from. And whilst that can be part of finding a solution, more often than not, it is a labour. It is a true labour. Because you're constantly trying to slay something that you're constantly recreating. The more you look at it, the more you create more of it. And the more you think, I have to do something about this. And you keep working away at it, trying to find the solution. And all you're doing when you're looking for the roots of the problem, when you're looking at what's going wrong, when you're calling attention to this element of it, 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 you're feeding the dragon that you're trying to slay. And so it becomes a cyclical waste of energy. You're creators. Many of you are creating what you're complaining about. And we understand it's, how you've been taught of how to care. Connect through misery. Misery loves company. And you'll feel it. Those of you that are sensitive will feel it. It'll weigh you down in your day-to-day. And to be able to not pay attention to what's going on in your own life. I can't begin to think of the positive experiences that I want to call to myself when there's so much pain going on in the world. Well, you know, if you don't start to create something new, who will? If you don't start to create a new world and a new reality, who will? And do you know that there are many wonderful things that are going off too? What is it that calls you more to pain than to freedom? Curious question. What is it that calls you more to pain than your own freedom? Guilt. How can I experience joy when there's so much pain in the world? I'm supposed to be an empath. Aren't I supposed to help transform all of this? No, no, not on your own. You're not here to save the world. You're not here to save the world. How many of you pay attention to the people that you affect on a day-to-day life, and your day-to-day life, in the minute detail of the 24 hours of your life? Your life, not that of somebody else's that you see through Facebook or social media or the news or the big events. But your day-to-day life, how many of you pay attention to the postman that you interact with, the colleagues that you interact with? What's it like when you interact with colleagues and they talk about the misery in the world and you don't want to go there? Is it guilt? For some of you, you betcha. When really what's going on, you don't want to look at it. You don't want to engage in it. You don't want to focus on it. Parts of you will, because you are loving beings and you're compassionate. But there are larger parts of you that just want to be done with it. And that's all right. You know, it's all right. So how do you do it? How do you remain a compassionate being? Have a life of your own that's joyful and still be a force of God and loving the world? Not much to ask, is it, really? So how do you do it? Well, here's some suggestions. when you see something that evokes pain within you about another human being, especially the children, and what's going on for you with the children right now, looking at the children and how they're being treated. So here, for those of you that are looking from afar, if you feel called, if it is a loving impulse within you to write to people, to write to politicians, to pay attention, then do it. By all means do it. Just check your motives. Just check your motives. Because some of it will be to do with your own relationship with your own father, your own relationship with your own mother, your own relationship with the God, Goddess, all that is, you know, your own multidimensional dysfunction. You know, it will have components of that. It will, for some of you, for many of you, have echoes of your own pain. So just check that, because you would be more beneficial presence of love if you dealt with your own pain. If you dealt with your own pain. Because once you've dealt with your own pain, you can be a more effective presence of love in the world. And we would call your attention to the power of your creative force. So if you don't feel called to add to the writing to the politicians, etc., if you don't feel called to that, or you have a sense that it's your own pain that you really need attending to, then what we would suggest, and is a far more creative and resourceful place to offer your physical reality, is to have the thought and the knowing, and hear this, the knowing is where the creative capacity starts. In the knowing, you are creating and adding to the collective field. So know that there are people around that have the resources to help and support those in need. That there are heroes, you know, if you're going to be focusing on villains, you know, there are heroes. There are people that walk tall in their kindness, and that they can and will intervene. Know that solutions can be found, that there will be a way. Add that creative energy to the collective field, because you see that when you create thought like that, you add that energetic vibration to the collective field. You add that possibility and that potential. And somebody who needs almost feeding, you know, they need that belief, you know, I can help, because they're in proximity, they have the resources, they have the intellect, they have the background, they have the practical resources at hand. They need all the energetic support they can get. So hear this, as empaths, you know, you feel denser energies. You know when somebody's sending you negative energy, you can feel the thought forms. You get terrified of them. Am I, you know, have I gotten an attachment? Is somebody sending me a negative thought? Is that why I'm having a bad day? You know, oh, this bombarding of negative energies. Why would you possibly think that the same, if not more, is possible for loving energies? You know, some of you have had that. Oof, I just feel wonderful all of a sudden. Maybe somebody's sending you a loving thought. Or maybe somebody has been praying and asking for this particular solution that you can offer. And you tap into their prayer, their knowing of your existence, and it energizes you. Yes, I can do this. Add to that field. Add to that field. And that's part of collapsing time. Send your resources to the field of love. Let that feed you. Let hope be the tipping point between despair and potential and solutions and the joy flowing in. Let hope be your friend in times of misery. Don't lose faith and hope. It's very different from ignoring your reality, although we give you permission to do that. Create thoughts of love. Create thoughts of love. Add to that field. If you need a job as an empath in physical reality, claim that. If you need a mission, have that. Begin to create the thoughts that you want to be able to experience in physical reality. And for those of you that don't believe that thoughts create form, they certainly help form. Is it useful for you to have positive thoughts when you're approaching a job or a situation? We think so. So the job of the creative empath, the job of the skilled Lemurian, create thoughts for the collective. Create thoughts for the collective to utilize and harmonize. What do you want to add to mass consciousness today? Live in the field of plenty. It's already in existence. Create your own pathway to the plane of plenty. By creating thoughts that you want to experience. It's not just about beliefs, but that certainly is a starting point. You've had it with your reality. So what's next? Are you going to live in your creative power? Are you going to remember who you are? And it's all right when you don't. But it's important that you do. You're in charge of your life. You're in charge of your life. You will have the power you need to create the changes that you wish to experience in your own life. How are you using your creative force of thought today. How can you deeply accept the now of your reality? When you deeply accept the now of your reality, you become more in touch with the potential of something new. Everything that you ever needed is indeed in your now, as long as you are not resisting it. Because you can't be in your now if you're resisting any part of it. And it is in your now that your field of potential lays, and you can choose that which you wish to experience next. And you don't have to plan the big things. Choose your responses moment by moment. Try this experiment for an hour. For an hour of your life. Choose in a minute detail how you respond. What are your thoughts? We bet that your thoughts are constantly creating a same reality. You're responding to the people around you from a sense of fear, guilt, loneliness, or from a sense of love, connection, good cheer, hope, faith, seeing the beauty. See the beauty all around you. Even in the moments of despair, there is always beauty. When that despair is looked upon with the eyes of compassion, kindness, and love. Try it for an hour. Just be aware of what you're adding to your field. Those that anger you, how are you responding? Where's your better lands? Or do you make space for your different twos, which allows you to separate from that which you do not wish to engage in, do not like, and go on and create something different? Judgment attaches you. Try it for an hour. See what thoughts you become aware of, what entanglements your judgments are creating for you. Free yourself with the awareness that you don't want to engage in that reality if it displeases you. You're different to that. You want to create something different. And are you creating something different? Or are you simply adding reinforcement to the reality that you don't want to experience? See how you go for an hour. Report back. Yes, let us know. Do not judge the self. Compassion for the self. And then the empowerment of choice. And we give this to you because we love you with a capital L. And we know you and the truth of who you are, your creative capacities and abilities. And we came here to remind you of that, and remind you we will, even if you throw your rattle at us from the pushchair from time to time. Remind you we will, because we love you. And so it is now that we leave you. In love and peace we bid you farewell for now.